Greetings. Coming to you from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, here on New Year's Eve. It's 12:31, and perfect time for me to give you guys an update as to where we are in our fight against retinoblastoma. And as of today, Ahava is 4 months, 17 weeks. And she is doing very well. For those who kind of want to know where she is, she's doing very well. Happy baby. She just discovered her voice recently, so she's singing and laughing and, full of energy. I got a couple cool videos with that. As far as how the chemotherapy itself is affecting her, she's doing good, but her appetite has been affected, so she's not feeding as much as we would like. But her weight is really good. She's in the 88th percentile, and she's chunky enough to miss a couple meals. So so she's doing good. And every now and then she gets a little bit fussy, but other than that, she's doing really well, and couldn't be happier as far as how she's responding to the chemo. We're at the halfway point, and if you guys recall, there was supposed to be 6 chemotherapy treatments. We're at the halfway point. We just had number 3 a few days ago, and just a quick recap, she was born September the 3rd. 7 weeks later, October 24th, she was diagnosed with retinoblastoma, and ever since we've been fighting this battle. And I just want to thank everyone who's out there, who's been supporting us and sending us all kinds of love. So that's kind of where we are. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was always 3 goals that the doctors had for us, which was number 1, save her life, number 2, save her eyeball, and then number 3, save vision. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But just to kind of tell you what's been going on the last couple of weeks. Obviously, we're in Philadelphia now, and we had to go through a whole relocation. So I had to recently put in my resignation with a company that I've been with for 11 years called Job Corps, and that was really difficult because I've got a lot of relationships there. And a lot of students and my staff and people that I work with and built bonds with. Also have a basketball training business that I had to relocate essentially, and clients, most of them are teenagers and even smaller children, male and female. So breaking those bonds temporarily, if anything, was really difficult. So I had to pack up everything, ship some stuff, and get those things back. But some crazy stuff happened. I got back to San Diego on Wednesday, went into work, hung out with some of my staff and some people I know, and had a good time. Went to my apartment. My apartment's broken into, which was, I was like super upset about that, and kind of processing through that, I decided to try my best to get past the anger phase and give. So what I did was through a friend, I got in contact with an organization called Nile Sister Development, and was able to basically donate probably 80% of my belongings to some Haitian refugees, and that was really great for me in terms of healing. It was a church in San Diego, and they allowed me to speak with the congregation, and they prayed for me, and then maybe I'll share that video with you guys. But it was an awesome feeling, helped me heal from that whole episode. So got past that, come on back to San Diego, and back to Philadelphia. Now I'm here. Now we have somewhat of an altered routine, where after her chemotherapy, there is an immune booster shot that she has to take And we have CHOP Home Care, Children's Hospital Home Care. They come out, nurse comes out and administers the shot. We also are required to now go in weekly to have blood work done, you know, because they want to monitor her blood levels and you know, make sure everything is good there. So initially it was coming in once a month on back-to-back days. We still do have to do that for chemotherapy, but we also have to come in for this blood work. Her last treatment, that was a really interesting day, the first day of 2. So get up at 2:45 in the morning to get her last breastfeeding, because there's a certain amount of hours that she can't breastfeed. So 2:45, we fed her at 3 in the morning. Then at 4 in the morning, we fed her Pedialyte. And that was her last meal, basically, until 6 a.m. We got to Wills Eye Hospital at 6 a.m. And she's now old enough to you know, be given anesthesia for this eye exam that we have to actually go through. So before chemotherapy, the eye is examined, see where we are, and you know, so she goes through that piece, and it's crazy to never forget the feeling of after she was prepared, basically handing my child to someone else, and you know, basically take her into the operating room where we can't be, and it's just this empty feeling that I've never felt before. But so give her to the doctors. They go do their thing. We go out to their waiting room, and they call us back in probably like an hour. It was a really brief procedure. So when we saw her, you know, for the first time, she has this ointment in her eyes, and you know, she's still kind of coming out of it, so she's not as alert as she would be, and you know, it just kind of hurts you in your gut a little bit. But she was fine, but it did hurt just to kind of see her in that condition. So you know, we before leaving, we spoke to Dr. Carol Shields, who's the oncologist at Wills Eye, and she gave us a update on where Ahava is in terms of her tumor. And great news, the tumor shrank again, and it's down to 6 millimeters, I want to say. And she used words like no cancer. She used words like full regression. And you know, it's just a really wonderful feeling to know that your baby's life has been saved. Because again, we talk about the goals. Second goal was also accomplished to this point. We can't make any guarantees, but the eyeball has been saved. So that was wonderful to know that eyeball was saved, has been saved. As terms of her vision, you know, her vision is actually going to be impaired in the left eye. The sight line as far as the right eye looks perfect from what they're saying, but that left eye is going to be compromised in terms of vision. And there's a patching piece where you strengthen the weak eye by covering the strong eye, so we'll go through that, and that's going to take some time. We were also told that there was a small seed, a tumor found in her right eye, which was probably the size of a piece of dust, that they lasered immediately, so that's gone. And you know, so she's officially officially bilateral retinoblastoma in that category, where initially she was unilateral. So, you know, that was tough, but that's something that we were informed could potentially happen, especially at her age. And the good thing is we'll be in contact, and we'll be going back and forth every single month for treatment. And if as they see those tumors or the seeds kind of pop up, they'll go ahead and laser those out. So there was really no sense of worry in terms of that, but when you hear tumor, you're kind of like, oh my goodness, you know. So, you know, that is there. But again, the good thing is they can laser that out. So they went ahead and did that. There's some things that they share with us in terms of how she's gonna have to live her life. You know, she's not gonna be able to smoke, and there's a couple of things that she has to really worry about. And you know, she's essentially open to susceptible to other forms of cancer. You know, going forward, there's some concern. You know, there's some concern in terms of her children, but there's some options, and I won't go into all that. But there's some options, you know, for the future as far as her children. But one thing, you know, as far as her children, she has, if you know, she's blessed with children, you know, they'll be looking for the retinoblastoma. So there should never be the case, you know, our particular case where she goes in and she's at stage D, which is a really large tumor. You know, they'll be looking for it right away. So, you know, it was definitely a, you know, a high and a low. Really high to know that your baby's been saved. Really low to know that her vision is going to be compromised in her future in terms of cancers and things like that. And some of that is still up in the air and unknown. But you know, we're really positive, and you know, the future. I believe the future is bright for her. You know, we've been told on multiple occasions that her quality of life is going to be really good going forward. So that's all you can do. You can only do what you can do, and we're going to be positive, and we definitely encourage you guys to be positive with us as we move through this. So, you know, so we move from Will's Eye, we go to Children's Hospital. They kept the IV in from Will's Eye, and they were able to use that going to Children's Hospital to administer her chemotherapy. In that, the second part of it is pretty long because you've got to get triage first. You know, they check her vitals and all. Then we sat and we talked to the oncologist there, Dr. Ann Leahy, who was amazing, and you know, reassured us and talked to us about a bunch of different things. But that was a really positive conversation. Then we go into the actual chemotherapy, which is about another 3 to 4 hours. So, and that's just, you know, IV, and it's just dripping. And then once we finish that, you know, we go home. But you know, I think we probably get home somewhere around 8 o'clock, you know, in the evening. So getting up 2:45 in the morning, getting back home at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, obviously is a really long day. Day 2, okay, so she had her IV, and so we avoid her being stuck multiple times. You keep the IV in and you put on her arm or around that particular area what's called a no-no. It's basically kind of like it looks like a cast, but it just protects the IV from falling out or being hit or anything like that. And we've done it a couple times, and you know, there's a flushing procedure that you go through to keep that IV fresh. Unfortunately, our very happy and active baby, you know, swinging her arms and all that, and the IV comes out, which was disappointing. She was actually trying to get to her thumb, you know, because she's sucking her thumb now, which I don't necessarily like, but you know, we're going to deal with that at this, you know, we're going to be okay with that. With everything that's going on. So the next day, we don't have to get up early, but the next day we go in whenever we, you know, decide to go in, which is probably close to noon, go in, and they have to do the IV again. Well, of course, this time with the IV didn't go very well, so they had to stick her 3 times to actually get it to stay. But she's a trooper. She, you know, initially in the beginning, when they had to stick her multiple times, you know, she'd be like screaming and going crazy, and she did cry. She was definitely upset, for sure, but she did very, very well, and I'm very, very proud of her in terms of how that whole thing went. So got the IV in, administered the last drugs for her chemo for that particular session, and then we were done. And that was, you know, I don't know, probably like 4 hours, something like that. So that's day 1, day 2. And, you know, like I said, as far as her status right now, she's been saved. So, you know, we're really happy with that. We have to continue. It's definitely a marathon, but we'll move forward. And I should mention too that, you know, because she was so young, they were thinking that there was a genetic component, to why she even got the retinoblastoma in the first place. So this kind of solidifies that there is a genetic piece to it, that either before conception or sometime after conception, but the idea is that there was a mutation after conception to a specific gene that they're not sure of at this point. We're waiting for blood work to come back to figure that piece out, because the thought is that, you know, myself and my wife don't have retinoblastoma in our family history. So you know, they're thinking that it's something that happened after conception. So we'll have to, you know, wait and see what happens with that. So, you know, that's basically how, you know, where we are now at this point. You know, like I said, her quality of life is going to be good. We have 3 more sessions. You know, our next session is at the end of January, and like I said a couple of videos before, you know, I'm not the expert on this, so I want to make sure that you guys get good information. A part of this whole process for my family and I is to bring awareness to what retinoblastoma is. So I'm going to include a link for an explanation by Carol Shields, who is the expert, along with her husband on retinoblastoma, and she'll explain in a much better way than I can what retinoblastoma is and some of the things that you should look out for. But definitely want to look out for that glow in your baby's eye or someone else's eye. Not the red glow that you would see when you take a picture, but it's kind of like a white glow. So look out for that. If you ever encounter it, you know, you should go and have that child checked out. And I'll also include a link to my first video, you know, for those who haven't had an opportunity to check it out. You know, I'll definitely encourage you to do so. And I don't know, I was debating on if I was going to say this or not, but I mean, if you enjoy the video, you know, hit the like button, subscribe, and I believe that will allow you to, some of these videos to actually come to you, you know, versus the way I've been sending them out, for those who would like to stay up to date in terms of how Hava is doing. And you know, the last thing I'll say is I feel blessed and thankful. You know, Hava is beautiful. She's a wonderful baby. I'm blessed to have the wife that I have. She's extremely supportive, you know, so strong, and you know, I couldn't have a better partner in life. The family that we both have, and the friends that we have, and the support system that we have behind us, you know, it's all a blessing. And you know, all we can do is move forward and be positive. You know, I feel like there's some great things that are going to be occurring for us and for her down the line, and I look forward to it. You know, this has been a challenge, obviously, and something that you never want to go through in terms of your child, but we are here, and we're going to beat this thing, and you know, hopefully we can pay it forward like other people have paid it forward, you know, with us, and give back and bring awareness to this ugly thing called retinoblastoma. So Happy New Year, happy holidays, and you know, I'll send something out to you guys in the future. But thank you from the bottom of our heart. We love you. Peace.